This is the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
I'm Liz.
And I'm Ashley.
Together, we have been making money online collectively for over 10 years.
Our mission is to help you start, learn, and grow a reselling business and to inspire you to turn your paycheck into a daycheck.
The world is changing, and we want to help you change with it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast. We have something super fun, at least we think it's super fun for you guys today. We are going to be listing out some of our personal favorite resellers in the community and why we love them so much. These people entertain us. They bring us amazing value. They've helped us along both of our journeys, and they're helping other people in the community as well. So in case you haven't heard of them for some crazy reason, we want to bring them forward and give you all the information about these fantastic members of our community.
And what better way to start off than the funniest reseller, the person that we get so many laughs. And Ashley introduced me to this reseller, and I am so bummed that I didn't get to meet her, because when we full-time RV'd, we spent a good 3 months in the Des Moines, Iowa area. And this is where she is, but it is Arbitrage with Amber, and she has a reselling channel. But not just that, she also shares her dating stories, and they are absolutely hilarious. So not only is she bringing value to the reselling community, she is definitely like a Patagonia queen. She's always finding that in the wild, and she has really good info about reselling, but also her dating stories crack me up. I've been married for almost 15 years, so I don't know how people date around this time anymore with how you have to date going online, and she shares the funniest stories. And her latest one actually went viral on TikTok, has 1.5 million views, and she just got interviewed with BuzzFeed. It's crazy. So you have to check it out.
Yeah, she is incredible. She brings so much value, especially in regards to Patagonia, like you mentioned. She's always finding it, always educating the community about like being able to date them and the different pieces and what they're called and what they're worth. So she's a really good person to follow if you want to learn more specifically about Patagonia. But she's like a really nice palate cleanser, you know, with like the entertainment and sharing her dating stories. So thanks, Amber, for bringing us so much joy. The next reseller on our list is for the traveling reseller. So Liz and Casey used to RV full time, and you know, it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that and to be successful at doing that and reselling at the same time. And this person is Nikki Kirk. She has a product called Your Selling Guide. She RVs full time. She sells on Amazon. She runs a Bolo group, and they just recently bought some land in Oklahoma. So she shares her journey reselling while traveling in an RV, which again takes an incredible amount of talent and organization. And she brings a ton of value to the community as well with her Bolo group and the Your Selling Guide.
And the next one, when we thought about the most humble reseller, we both knew immediately who we were going to pick for this one. Ashley, who is Hustle at Home Mom. I have been following her for years, and to see her success from going just on Instagram to now over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And now I think her channel is better than ever, and mainly because her husband, TJ, is a part of it. And they are like the sweetest couple. You can tell they just have a really good relationship. She's buying pallets now of items. And I think her last YouTube video, she went to, it looked like a warehouse, and there was a pallet of different items. And one of the reasons she bid on that pallet was because it had Lululemon. So she's very knowledgeable in that.
Yeah, she has 3 little boys, and I think it was last month, so in November, it was either in October or November, she put out on social media that she wanted to put a really small, intimate group of people together as like an accountability group. It's like a free thing that she was doing, and she asked people to like message her with, you know, why they would be interested in being in this accountability group. So I sent her a message and she accepted me into the group. So it's a couple of us. I think there's like 7 or 8 of us in this group that, and we just chat with each other throughout the day, check in with each other in the morning and at night, making sure that we're being accountable to each other and getting the things done that we needed to get done throughout the day. But the reason why she's the most humble reseller is because of all the success that she has had. She is an amazing YouTuber. She is amazing at reselling. She has like a huge audience and she's been so successful, and yet she still thanks everyone all the time. You can just tell how genuine she is and how much she loves her audience and the people that have supported her. So there's so much authenticity there. We just love her so much. And thank you, Ashley, for everything that you've done for the community so far. All right, next up, we have our favorite reselling couple, and that is none other than Rinzy, Ryan and Lindsay. They live in Maine. They are mega shoe resellers. They have over 31,000 pairs of shoes sold. They sell, I believe, mostly on Poshmark. They might do a little Mercari, but they don't do anything on eBay, really. They love Poshmark. They're so successful at it, and they share a ton of information about how their process works, how they get so many shoes, how they purchase so many. They have people that source for them. They do pickups all over the area. They have people that help them clean, and watching their growth from like when it was just them in their house. I think in the last year or so, they just recently bought a bigger house and they have a bigger reselling space. Watching their growth has been so motivating and so interesting. They are very sweet to each other. It's just really nice to see such a lovely couple have so much success and do so well.
So our next favorite reseller, we thought about who in the reselling community is the biggest multitasker. And I had to pick Eileen, also known as Hustle and Slow. I found her when we were full-time RVing. At the time, she was RVing. Then they stopped. They moved to Oregon. They bought a house. Now they're full-time RVers again. She has 3 kids. She not only resells, she has YouTube, she has her Instagram, and she also does freelance work. So she's a freelance writer on Fiverr. So she is definitely a multitasker. And I think she's just a really good one to follow. She has a lot of good content on YouTube, Instagram, and I think she is a really good example of how you can do multiple things. So you don't have to just do reselling. You can also, maybe you do reselling part-time and you also have a full-time job. She's really good at multitasking. And I think that a lot of people could learn things from her.
All right, next up, we wanted to acknowledge a reseller or resellers who have the best reselling reels out there on Instagram. And when we were thinking about the categories and we thought of this one, instantly I thought of the fire sellers, Camilla and Kang, a wonderful reselling couple. They have the best reseller reels out there. If you haven't been following them, you definitely need to check them out. They're so funny. They come up with like the greatest content for their reels. So not only are they funny, but they also share really good reselling tips and information in their reels as well. All right. So next up, we wanted to highlight a reseller that had the most valuable Instagram content, just in general. That person is Thrift to Travel. Her name is Jen. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her, but if you haven't, you need to follow this person. She sells a ton of discontinued products. She is on a ton of different platforms. She is so knowledgeable about the products that she sells. She has a couple of discontinued product lists, like a hardware list, a beauty product list. They're so reasonably priced. I think they're like $5 or $7 or something like that. She also has that new feature on Instagram, like the subscription, and it's like 99 cents a month or something. And she posts a ton of information if you are a subscriber to her on Instagram as well. She does a ton of tips for each specific platform that she sells on: Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, Together, Amazon, etc. She's just truly a wealth of information. And when she posts I always know that I'm going to learn a ton of stuff from her. And not only that, but she is one of the sweetest people that I've met on Instagram so far. So thank you so much, Jen, for everything that you bring to the community as well.
Next up, we have a reseller that fits the overcoming obstacles. And when we thought of this person, there were many reasons why we did. And we actually had this reseller as our very first guest on the podcast. We did not know that at the time she was going to encounter something so devastating that it was going to affect her business, and how she has overcome having to deal with what she has dealt with is like so inspirational. So that person is Ashley from Revive Tribe. If you follow her, you know she lives in Florida. She was in the path of Hurricane Ian, and she literally had to leave her property. Her house was right on the water. Her entire first floor was flooded. She lost a lot of stuff. The way that she reacted to that was so positive and inspirational.
Her mindset is just something that I really admire about her. I've known her for many years. She actually, when I started reselling, I think I was like a year or two into it, I had an opportunity to take on some consignment items from a specific person, and she gave me a ton of amazing advice. So since then, we have stayed in touch. We've chatted every week pretty much. And watching her and her family go through this devastation has been, oh my gosh, I cried for her. I'm sure she cried many times as well, but watching someone who is so sweet and so positive and so hardworking go through something that's so devastating was just crushing. And I really think that the reselling community came together and helped her and her family out a lot also, which is very admirable, guys. Like, that is what I love about this community. But she is in the process of overcoming this obstacle, but we know that she is going to absolutely crush it. Her and her kids and her husband, they are just working every single day to put their lives back together. And Ashley, there's no one else that deserves this more than you.
All right, next up, we thought, who in the reselling community had the biggest flip of the year? And I couldn't think of anyone else other than the flea market flippers. They have a reselling podcast called the Reseller Hangout. Casey and I were on their show. They also have a group that they teach people how to flip high dollar appliances and high dollar ticket items. But their flip of the year, follow them on Instagram if you're not following them, because they post all these different things that literally they make thousands of dollars. So this particular item was their biggest flip of the year. It was a 2019 commercial Turbo Chef i3 convection oven. They bought it for $400 and they sold it for $10,000. Wow. And this isn't the only thing that they've sold for multiple thousands of dollars. They sell a lot of high ticket items. So they're a really good Instagram to follow. They're also on YouTube. Like I said, they have a podcast, but they're a husband and wife duo. They have kids, but they went from flipping items and then realizing, why am I spending all this time flipping multiple items when I can sell one or two a month and make that profit, and then in turn have more time to spend with our family? So that's kind of why they shifted to the bigger items. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth do you ship stuff like that? It's Rob and Melissa. Rob does a lot of good content on Instagram showing exactly how he ships those bigger items. When the Goodwill bins come up, I think of this person every single time, and that is Chris from Flip the World, Texas. He is literally the super Goodwill bins sourcer. He goes to the bins. He lives in Texas, goes to the bins, and he does his live whatnot show from the actual bins. I mean, I don't sell live, but it is incredible. He will literally source at the bins and then put all that stuff on whatnot, which I just think is so interesting. He's also so funny. I think he has a great sense of humor. There's a photo on Instagram of him looking like he's laying in a Goodwill bin, and he's naked, but he's got a pumpkin pie over his bottom part. And it is so funny. Like, he has that sense of humor. Like, he doesn't care. He's just going to do what he wants. And I think that's so cool. And he's so fun to follow. He's also part of, there was a bunch of resellers that put together a calendar. And I believe he's 4th of July, if I had that right, but he's one of the months in the calendar, and it's a funny photo. So he just has a really good sense of humor. I reached out to him about something with reselling, whether it was cross-posting, and he literally took the time to answer. And I like that about resellers when they're willing to help you in the DMs, especially because what's better than learning from other people that have had that experience? With reselling, there's just so much to learn. Like Ashley and I don't claim to know everything. We are still learning ourselves, but I just really admire when other resellers take the time to help when you have a question. So thank you, Chris from Flip the World, Texas, and keep creating that funny content.
So next up, we have the Keepa King. And when you think of Keepa, there should be a name attached to that. And that is Matt from Buy Low, Sell Hines. He preaches Keepa like it's his job. He uses it. He's a huge Amazon seller. He has an incredible business. And watching him grow over the last few years has been very inspirational too. We've had him on the podcast before. If you haven't listened to his episode, make sure you go and listen to it. Every time that I speak with him or watch his Instagram stories, it just like reignites that drive and the passion, and it makes you want to go get some serious work done. He knows Keepa in and out, so much so that he created an incredibly informative and detailed course breaking down every single tiny little detail about Keepa, everything that you could possibly want to know. He preaches that you cannot sell on Amazon without using Keepa, looking at the Keepa chart for every single item that you're going to purchase. And we agree. So Matt, thank you so much for the information. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you. And we will link his course in the show notes and underneath the YouTube video for you guys if you want to check that out. It's very reasonably priced, and you get a wealth of information.
Who is the most unique niche seller out there? And I actually found this person. Usually if you're watching on YouTube, I wear a lot of State 48 clothes, and it's just a brand that's from Arizona. I love their brand. They just have a really good message. They do a lot of collaborations with people in the area. They do a lot of fundraising. So they're just a really good brand. And they were doing a giveaway, and you had to follow so many people. And I followed this person, and I was like, I have never heard of this person, but this is incredibly interesting as a reseller. And her name is Rose, and she's the Insta Plant Lady Arizona. She sells plants. Like that's what she does. She doesn't even sell them online. She sells them literally through her Instagram. I find that so fascinating. And she also has a lot of good information about plants. So you can tell she's very passionate about growing plants. And a lot of resellers do end up having a niche that they sell in. And so when we thought of a niche, I thought, well, what more niche can you get than selling plants and only plants? But it's so fascinating, and maybe one day we'll get some of our plants over here.
All right, so the last person that we have for you guys, I'm sure almost all of you are following, but we wanted to highlight him anyways. He has the most valuable YouTube content, and he is one of the most helpful resellers we have ever come across, and that is Reezy Resells. He has amazing content. He has a free Amazon course that you guys can access at any time. He is motivating. He's helpful. He's honest. He has integrity. He also shares information about reselling on eBay, Amazon, Mercari, all the platforms. And we wouldn't be where we are today, neither of us, without Reezy Resells. He has helped both of us individually in our businesses. He's just one of those icons in our community. Reezy, we cannot thank you enough for everything that you do. So now we need your help, you guys. We wanted to put out another category for an up-and-coming reseller, but we're not sure. We're not sure who to pick. So we want you guys to let us know who your favorite up-and-coming reseller is. The only criteria is that they must have started reselling within the last 12 months. We are going to post about it on social media and have you guys nominate someone. You can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, in our group, or you can email us as well. All that information will be in the show notes or down below if if you're watching us on YouTube. And then we can pick someone from that list of names, and we would like to send them a reseller starter kit, just some of our favorite tools and items that helped us when we first started reselling. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
Anything we mentioned in this episode will be linked down below in the show notes or description down below.
Be sure to share this episode with anyone you think it will help and follow us on social media at P2D Podcast.
Thanks again for listening. Keep working towards that Daycheck.